folks! The Filipina P here. And today I'm going to save your relationship, your dignity, and possibly even your life. And unless you enjoy getting the silent treatment for 3 weeks straight, or mysteriously finding all your clothes donated to the Salvation Army, here's 10 things you should absolutely, under no circumstances ever, say to a Filipina. Now, before we get started, let me ask you a favor. Hit that thumbs up button right now because you're gonna want all the good karma you can get after I tell you some of the bonehead things I've heard foreigners actually say to their Filipino girlfriends and wives. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? An engraved invitation? Just click that button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any more of these truth bombs. So, you met a Filipina. Maybe you're already dating one or married to one, and you think you know what you're doing. You think you're being helpful or funny or just making conversation. But let me tell you something, guys. What sounds perfectly innocent to you might be the verbal equivalent of stepping on a landmine to us. And trust me, the explosion will be spectacular. Not every Filipino is gonna react the same way to these things. Some of us have thicker skin than others. But as a general rule, if you value your peace of mind, you might want to avoid these 10 conversational hand grenades. Your insert body part looks just like my ex's. So I started with the most obvious one, and yet I'm amazed at how many guys step right into this pile of crap. Never, and I mean never, compare your Filipina to your ex. I don't care if it's meant to be a compliment. I don't care if you're just teasing. The moment those words leave your lips, you've just told her that you're thinking about another woman while you're with her. And even worse, you just told her that you're thinking about another woman's body. And worst of all, you're thinking about a woman that you've seen naked and used to love. Talk about a Filipina's kryptonite. For those 2 or 3 guys out there that might not already know this, we Filipinas are insanely jealous. Like, next level, stage-fied, what were you just dreaming about kind of jealous. It's not because we're crazy. Okay, maybe we're a little crazy, but it's because in our culture, once we commit to you, we're all in, and we expect the same level of devotion from you. So when you mention your ex's cute little nose, what we hear is, I'm not over her yet, or I'm comparing her nice western nose with your flat one, and you're losing. And it's not just body parts. It applies to any comparison at all. Just say something like, wow, you know how to cook adobo just like my ex-wife used to make. And watch what happens. Congratulations, buddy. You just ruined her adobo forever. Now, every time she makes it, she's gonna be thinking about this mystery woman who had the audacity to exist before she did. Here's a pro tip. Even if we ask about your ex, and we will because we're nosy as hell, remember the famous words of Admiral Akbar. It's a trap! Because it will be. And the only way to avoid falling into it is to keep your answers short and boring. It's much safer to say something like, it didn't work out, we wanted different things, we really never had a very fulfilling relationship anyway. Can we talk about something else? That's it. Don't give us details. Don't tell us she had a great smile, or she knew how to fix cars, or that she could kick your ass at Call of Duty, because then we're gonna spend the next 6 months thinking about how we don't measure up. And that's exhausting for both of us. You're pretty for a Filipina, or you don't look Filipino. Oh no. Where do I even start with this one? This is what we call a backhanded compliment, and it's about as welcome as a cockroach in a bowl of rice. When you say you're pretty for a Filipina, what you're really saying is that Filipinas aren't pretty, but that somehow your girlfriend managed to escape the ugly stick that hit the rest of us. Or when you say you don't look Filipino, even if you just mean our looks aren't like the other Filipinos you've seen, she's gonna take it to mean that looking Filipino is bad. And by extension, you're literally insulting her entire ethnic background, her family, her ancestors, and all of her friends. Now, even if you meant nothing by it, trust me, A Filipino will find a way to cast your comment in the worst light possible and turn it into an insult. It's what we do. If you want to compliment your Filipino girlfriend, just tell her she's beautiful. Period. No qualifiers, no exceptions. No comparisons to other ethnic groups. Just, you're beautiful. It works every time. And you won't end up with a shoe thrown at your head. Why do you send money to your family? They're not your responsibility. Oh, here we go. This is the big one that causes more fights than anything else in Filipino-foreigner relationships. And I'm gonna catch heat from both sides for it. But I don't care. I'm here to tell you the truth. Look, I get it. You think it's crazy that a grown woman with her own life is still sending money back to her parents, her siblings, her cousins, and that uncle she met once at a baptism 12 years ago. You think she's being taken advantage of. You think her family is lazy and just wants a handout. And you know what? A lot of the time, you're right. But here's what you might not understand. In Filipino culture, family isn't just important. It's almost everything. It's our social security system, our retirement plan, our insurance policy, and our purpose in life all rolled into one. When a Filipino succeeds, the whole family succeeds. And when a Filipino struggles, the whole family struggles together. Now, I'm not saying your Filipina should bankrupt herself to support the entire extended family. That's ridiculous and unsustainable. But telling her that her family isn't her responsibility, to a Filipina, that's like telling her to cut off her own arm. It's not gonna happen, and you're just gonna create resentment. Here's the thing about us Filipinas. We might love you with all our hearts. We might worship the ground you walk on. But if you make us choose between you and our family, we're gonna choose family about 7 times out of 10. And when we do choose you, we're gonna resent you for it forever. So instead of saying, why do you send money to your family? Try asking, how can we create a sustainable budget that allows you to help your family while still meeting our own financial goals? The first one makes you sound like a controlling jerk, while the other one makes you sound like a partner who actually gives a damn. And if her family really is taking advantage, then that's a conversation you need to have. But you better approach it with the delicacy of a surgeon, not the bluntness of a sledgehammer. My country is so much better than the Philippines. So do you really want to go down that road? Because this is how you start a war. Listen, I've been to the West. I've seen your roads and your reliable electricity and your stores with 37 different kinds of milk. And yes, a lot of the things really are better there. Much better. And I'm not gonna lie and say that the Philippines is perfect. We've got corruption, poverty, traffic that makes you want to scream into the void, and we throw our trash on the ground like we're allergic to garbage cans. But you know what? It's still our home, and when you insult it, it really hurts. Imagine if your Filipina constantly said, ugh, people in your country are so fat and lazy, everyone's so cold and unfriendly, and your culture is so materialistic. Even if you totally agreed, you might feel a little defensive, right? You might even say, well, if you hate it so much, why are you even here? Same thing applies when you trash talk the Philippines. We already know our country has problems. We live with them every day. We don't need you pointing them out like you've discovered some great secret that we were somehow unaware of. And here's the kicker. Even when we complain about the Philippines ourselves, and we do, that doesn't mean it's a good idea for you to join in. It's kind of like how she can complain about her family, but if you say one bad word about them, you're probably gonna fight about it. Now, I'm not saying to lie about how great the Philippines is. Just don't rub salt in the wound by pointing out our shortcomings. Trust me, we already know what they are. You're overreacting. If you want to see overreacting, just tell a Filipina she's overreacting and watch what happens next. Now, are we sometimes too sensitive? We sure are. Are we sometimes dramatic about things that don't even matter? Absolutely. A Filipina might give you the silent treatment for 2 whole days because you forgot to buy her the mango-flavored ice cream she wanted. Is that an immature reaction? You bet it is. We Filipinos are masters of immaturity, but telling us we're overreacting doesn't solve anything. It just puts a match to the gasoline. Because now we're mad about the original thing, and we're mad that you're pointing out our flaws. Instead, try this. I know it's not your first choice, but it has a much better chance of getting through to a Filipina. Instead of telling us to calm down, which by the way has never in the history of mankind actually kept anyone calm, try saying something like, I can see that this really bothers you. Help me understand why. Then when she hears herself trying to explain why it ruins her existence to not get a certain flavor of ice cream, even a Filipina knows she's being a little silly. Will she still be unreasonable sometimes? Yup. Will she still get upset about things that make no logical sense? Count on it. But at least she'll know you're trying to understand her, instead of just dismissing her as a hysterical Filipina who can't control her emotions, which is usually the truth. You should be more independent. Okay, so you went to the Philippines or met a Filipina online, and one of the things you loved about her was how attentive she was, how she always wanted to be near you, how she texted you constantly and wanted to know what you were doing, how she made you feel wanted and desired in a way that Western women never did. But now that you've got her, suddenly she's too clingy. Suddenly you need your space. Suddenly you need her to be more independent and have her own hobbies and stop asking where you're going every time you leave the house. Well, congratulations! To a Filipina, it sounds like you don't want her around anymore. That's what she heard anyway. Not, I need some alone time, but I'm tired of you. So here's the thing about Filipinas. We show love through presence. We want to be with you all the time because that's how we demonstrate how important you are to us. In our culture, if you love someone, you make time for them. You constantly check on them to make sure they're okay and to be sure they're not with someone else. So when you tell us we're too clingy, you're basically saying that our way of loving is wrong, and that hurts a lot. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have boundaries. If you genuinely need alone time, then of course that's valid. But there's a way to communicate that without making her feel rejected. How about trying this? Say, I love spending time with you, and I also need a few hours to myself to recharge. How about I take some time today to do my own thing, and then later on, we can have the evening together. If you say it like that, you're not rejecting her. You're just explaining your needs in a way that it still makes her feel important. And honestly, if you wanted an independent woman who was perfectly happy doing her own thing all the time, you probably should have chosen a Western woman. The same qualities that make Filipinas loving and devoted are the same qualities that make us want to be around you all the time. Can't have one without the other. Your English is so cute. Okay, nothing says, I think it's funny the way you butcher my language, like telling a Filipina how cute she is while doing it. If you tell a Filipina, it's kind of sexy the way you mix up your verb tenses, and I just love the way you say comfortable and cucumber. That only guarantees we'll never try to say it again, even if you really do think it's adorable. Now, when you guys massacre our language, we giggle and laugh and think it's cute too, so it's totally hypocritical for us to get so embarrassed and offended when you do it to us. But we don't react as maturely as you do. You guys can laugh along with us, but when the tables are turned, it just makes us self-conscious. Filipinos do not like being the center of attention, and we definitely don't want to feel like we're being made fun of. And we especially don't like having our grammar corrected in front of other people. If she says, I go to the store yesterday, instead of I went to the store yesterday, you know exactly what she means. Everyone knows exactly what she means. There's no need to point out the grammatical faux pas. If you have to correct her, and honestly, you probably shouldn't unless she specifically asks you to, do it privately and gently. And don't share her mistakes with your friends like they're hilarious anecdotes. I once heard a guy telling his friends, oh, you should have heard how she says breakfast. It's so cute she says breakfast. His Filipino girlfriend was sitting right next to him, and I could literally see her shrinking in her seat, like she was trying to become invisible. The guy didn't mean anything bad by it, but I knew how humiliated she felt. I have a feeling she didn't say the word breakfast again for a very long time. In fact, I bet she didn't say anything for a very long time. And that guy probably got a big blast of tampo. Never criticize a Filipina's cooking. Oh boy, unless you feel like walking into a lion's den, you might want to avoid making this mistake. Let me explain something about Filipinas and our cooking. For us, cooking for someone is an act of love. It's how we show we care. When we spend hours in the kitchen making you a meal, we're not just feeding you, we're telling you how important you are and that you matter to us. Remember the women I interviewed last week and what they said when I asked them how they show a man their love? The first thing out of their mouths was about how they cook for him, not about how they'd wear him out in the bedroom, which is probably what you guys wanted to hear, but about how they'd spend time in the kitchen to show their love. So when you criticize our cooking, you're not just saying the food isn't good. You're sticking a dagger right into our heart. It'd be the equivalent of telling you that you sucked in bed. Ouch. Now, I'm not saying you have to pretend to love everything she makes. If she puts too much salt in the soup, which she probably will because we put too much salt in everything, that doesn't mean you have to suffer in silence. But there's a huge difference between constructive feedback and insulting criticism. So if you want your Filipino chef to make a few adjustments to the food, just do it like a helpful suggestion and not an attack on her cooking skills. I know a lot of you guys are used to Western women who don't cook hardly at all or don't consider it their duty to feed you. So when you get a Filipina who actually enjoys cooking, you think you've hit the jackpot. And you have. So don't let her think her food only deserves a 1-star review. And if it's not perfect, remember that she's probably still adjusting to using different kinds of ingredients and different appliances, especially if you brought her back to your country. And if you're really lucky, she'll teach you how to make some Filipino dishes. But trust me, once you realize how much work goes into making lumpia from scratch, you'll never complain about her cooking again. Why are you always so damn late? Okay, to be completely honest, we deserve this one. Yes, Filipino time is a real thing, and how late we are depends on a complicated and unpredictable set of variables, like how we were feeling about our hair that day, whether or not we can find the right pair of shoes, and how long it takes our mom to finish up her never-ending story about how ungrateful her kids are. Look, we know we're late. We know it drives you crazy. We know that in your culture, being on time is a sign of respect. And being late is basically a character flaw. But in our culture, time is more a matter of opinion. Now, if you brought your Filipina back to the West, she's gonna have to adjust to your system of timekeeping. And she will, eventually. But constantly nagging her about it isn't gonna speed up the process. It'll just make her feel bad about herself and defensive about her culture. I know it sounds like child psychology, but when there's some place you absolutely need to be on time for, like the doctor's office or to catch a flight, just tell her you have to be there an hour earlier than you actually do, at least until you can convince her that your way is the right way. And before you judge us too harshly, remember that your culture has its own quirks that make no sense to us, like showing up exactly on time to a party, which in Filipino culture is actually considered rude because the host isn't ready yet. So maybe we're not late after all. Maybe you're just early. And finally, number 10, the granddaddy of them all. Never ever say, "It's amazing how I could get any Filipina I want over here." So, you really want to die? Because this is how you die. This is hands down, without question, the absolute worst thing you could ever say to a Filipina. This is the nuclear option. This is the "I don't ever want to be happy again" button. Even if it's true, and it probably is, or even if you're just joking, or if you're saying it in the middle of an argument when you're both saying hurtful things, or maybe you were being foolish enough to actually try to make her more jealous than she already is. But for whatever reason, do not say this. Because if you do, here's what she just heard. She's replaceable. You're actively thinking about other women. You're already shopping around while you're with her. Her worth is based entirely on her youth and appearance, two things she's very aware she won't always have. You have all the power in the relationship. She should be grateful you chose her because look at the other options you have. Congratulations, you just destroyed any feeling of security she had with you in just one sentence. And the worst part, she knows it's probably true. She knows there are younger and prettier Filipinas out there. She knows that as a foreign guy, especially if you're a little older and you have a little money, you pretty much have unlimited options. A Filipino worries about this constantly. It's one of our biggest insecurities. So when you throw it in her face, you're confirming her worst fears. You're telling her that all her suspicions were right, that she's nothing special, that you're just with her until someone better comes along. And you know what happens after you say this? One of two things. Either she becomes a paranoid, jealous mess who monitors your every move and lashes out every time you so much as say hello to another woman, or she checks out emotionally, knowing that the relationship has an expiration date and starts planning her exit strategy. And trust me, women are pros at concocting surprise exit strategies. Neither of those outcomes is good for you, and here's the truth. Yes, you could find another Filipina, but you chose this one. Make her feel like she's the only woman in the world. Make her feel special and irreplaceable. Because here's what guys with successful relationships in the Philippines know. Having a happy and secure Filipina who loves you might just be your life's greatest achievement. And it'll pay dividends you can't imagine. So there you have it, folks. 10 things you should never, ever, ever say to a Filipina. Not if you value your relationship, your sanity, or your access to home-cooked lumpia. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, but P, those are very obvious. Who would actually say this stuff? And the answer is, a lot of you. Believe me. And relationships are hard enough without stepping on landmines left and right. Are Filipinas perfect? Hell no, we're not. We're jealous, dramatic, late, and sometimes completely unreasonable. But we're also loyal, loving, devoted, and will stand by you through thick and thin. As long as you don't say any of the 10 things I just mentioned. But if you do screw up and say something awful, don't sweat it, because we're a very forgiving people that usually give you a second chance. But we're also women. And women are like elephants. We never forget. Well, that's it for this episode, and I'll be back on Tuesday with something that'll make you smile. Till then, come and join me on my Patreon page where you can find out a whole lot more about the Philippines and chat with me in real time about anything under the sun. Hope to see you there! If you think about it, I'm kind of like the farmer's daughter, ready to make you laugh while helping you grow your plans for the Philippines. I can also tell you how to find a good Filipina so you don't end up with a hoe. If you appreciate all my labor, please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel, and tap the notification bell so you'll know when it's time to harvest the next video. And don't forget to check out my Patreon page for extra content and exclusive videos and features.
Hey, the troubling salesman's here to see you again.
He's such a nice man. He promised to plow my field. I don't think that's where the seeds go.